Right now on the National Weather Desk, a new and growing threat in hurricane-ravaged Florida. Electric cars are catching on fire.
They're displaced as well, so I do believe they're pretty confused.
Pets that lost their families following Ian are now looking for new forever homes across the country.
Believe it or not, the ball goes a lot farther on a hot, humid day than it does on a cold, dry day.
We'll take a closer look at the impact weather has on outdoor sports and activities. And while winter is coming, the frost will arrive first. We'll show you how frost forms even when it doesn't seem like it's cold enough.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Veronica Johnson. This morning's big weather story is a storm that is brewing in the tropics again. Tropical Depression 13 is now moving through the Caribbean. It became a depression just last night. It's over northwestern Venezuela now. As it moves off to the west into those warmer waters, it is going to strengthen and become a tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane before the next landfall, Nicaragua, sometime midday Sunday. Now, the upper level winds will continue to guide this storm to the west, unlike Ian that made its way back to the north and east over Florida. Now on to the latest, the aftermath of Hurricane Ian. The storm is now the second deadliest to hit the U.S. mainland, with at least 126 deaths in Florida and 5 in North Carolina. According to Florida's medical examiner, most of the victims drowned. Work is now underway on the Sanibel Causeway. That's the road connecting Sanibel Island to the mainland. A section of the road was destroyed by Ian. This is just a temporary repair work. The goal here is to reopen that bridge by the end of the month. Property owners are allowed to take boats to the island during the day, but they have to return at 7 p.m. We have new video this morning from Cuba, where Hurricane Ian struck before making landfall in Florida. A lot of parts here of Cuba west of Havana are still without power. Frustrated farmers who would normally be planting tobacco now instead are looking for shelter for their families. Many of their farms destroyed. Getting the power back in some places could take months. And first responders in Florida are facing a new challenge following Ian. Electric cars are catching on fire. Florida's chief financial officer tweeted out this video Thursday. It shows firefighters in Naples putting out a car fire. Someone on the video is heard saying firefighters already poured 1,500 gallons of water on this fire, but it still wasn't out. The CFO says there are a ton of EVs disabled from the storm, but there is no official count on how many batteries caught fire. Another problem in the wake of Hurricane Ian is an abundance of pets that are looking for new homes. Some were lost in the storm. Others were given up for adoption by families that lost their homes. Now those animals are looking for a new place. Allie Jennerjohn is in Kalamazoo, Michigan with the details.
They're preparing to give safe housing to close to 30 more dogs coming in from Florida.
Anytime there's a disaster, what you worry about is the animals that are previously in the shelter, and creating enough space so the ones that are displaced have safety so that their families can be reconnected with them.
The aftermath of Hurricane Ian has left not just people, but pets too, with nowhere to go.
What we're able to do is work with our national partners and say, hey, who can we take that was previously in the shelter that's at risk of euthanasia or just needs the help, so that they can take in the animals that are being picked up on the streets, that are still searching for their families.
Red Cross volunteers with boots on the ground in Florida tell me they're also working to care for animals there, taking them on walks, feeding them, and keeping them socialized.
This is a pet-friendly center, and they're all doing well. I mean, they're displaced as well, so I do believe they're pretty confused.
In Florida and here locally, Timber says foster homes are needed.
If you have the space in your home, please reach out.
Now to concerns that the winter could bring a new surge of COVID cases. Most experts believe it's going to happen and may in fact have already started. The problem is there's a new variant and we have limited immunity to it. Hundreds of Americans are still dying every day from COVID. Dr. Anthony Fauci says a winter surge could lead to more mask wearing.
It's entirely conceivable that we will see enough of an uptick that is possible. that will be required.
Concerns also that a winter surge could overwhelm hospitals. Many don't have the same capacity to handle patients as they did when the pandemic started. Now to a segment that we call Social Meteorology. 3 members from our team of 200 meteorologists across the country are using their social platforms to better help you understand different weather events and phenomena. So let's begin now in Steubenville, Ohio, with Jeff Exline and an interesting theory on predicting winter weather.
Well, it's that time of year where everyone wants to know, will the winter be a bad one? I may not have the answer this far out, but Mother Nature sometimes gives us clues. You ever heard of the woolly bear caterpillar? According to legend, if you have more brown stripes on the woolly bear caterpillar, that indicates a milder winter. If we were to see a broad black stripes, more black stripes, then it would be a harsh winter. So according to legend, this one looks like a relatively mild winter. Now, what do I think? I think there's a 100% chance come spring, this guy will turn into a butterfly.
Have you ever wondered if a hurricane shares the same name as you? Well, today we're going to talk about how hurricanes get their name. Storms are given names so we can avoid confusion and also just for communication purposes. This is the list for 2022. The list is in alphabetical order and alternates between male and female, but notice there's only 21 names. This is because there's actually 6 lists that get rotated every 6 years, and we don't have enough names for Q, U, X, Y, and Z. If you see your name anywhere on these lists, there is a good chance that a hurricane could share your name.
Today we're talking rainbows. Everyone loves to see a good rainbow after the rain, and you might be wondering how they form. Well, I'll let you know. So obviously rainbows get the name rainbow because they form after we see rain or actively are seeing rain at the point 2. So typically you get raindrops that you can see on this diagram here, rain kind of falling off in the distance. The sun rays pick up on that and ultimately lead to some reflections in the atmosphere. So that's where we see that refracted light that causes that rainbow spectrum and gives us a beautiful rainbow off in the distance. Both of these beautiful rainbow photos that I shared were from our Chime In Gallery here in Dayton, Ohio, but obviously we see rainbows all across the U.S., which make them special every time we get to see them as well.
As we all know, farmers across the country pay close attention to the weather. In northern Michigan, a dry early start to the corn season had some worried, but as meteorologist Heather Bricka explains, hey, it all worked out in the end.
Going into this year, everything was going to cost more, from the fuel to fertilizer and even employees on the farm. To turn a profit, Harris Family Farms had to start charging more for corn this year.
We increased them 50%. I went to 75 cents an ear this year.
The good news is that the farm produced plenty of corn for the season.
Now, we ended up getting some frosts last week, and we've still been picking every day. Today looks like it's going to be our last day of the season.
Other corn farmers that grew corn for feed also had good yields despite a dry start to the season.
From a corn standpoint, harvest is going pretty good. I think, we've got some rains late. I mean, I think in your area, there's some pretty, serious dry conditions. I think there's some challenges there, but, as we get a little further to the south, the weather's really cooperating.
Maybe you've heard of lake effect snow. If you're in the Great Lakes region, you've likely even experienced it. Well, there's also such thing as lake effect rain, which is what you're seeing here. Both happen when the colder air moves over the warmer waters of the Great Lakes. Meteorologist Joe Charlevoix took this video, and he tells us it was pouring rain at the TV station in Traverse City, but just down the road, it was dry and the moon was shining. Well, we love to showcase the many treasures in our nation. The Serpent Mound historical site might be on your list of places to go. It's about an hour and a half just east of Cincinnati. They're still open for the season. This landmark is a Native American effigy mound that is in the shape of a snake. 3 burial mounds are also nearby. They were created by ancient cultures that inhabited the Ohio area. And we've got a lot more coming up on the show. The National Weather Desk. Hey, we're talking about the impact here. Your favorite sporting event. You know the weather impacts sporting events in many different ways, like temperature and humidity can also be a factor. We'll explain more coming up. And as summer getting longer, we'll take a closer look at rising fall temperatures. It's
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We've had some pretty mild air over the last 2 days in the Northeast. Today is one of those days. Here we are this morning. This cold front that will swing through, that's going to put an end to the party. That will bring with it the chance for a shower or a thunderstorm during the course of the day today. Then cooler air starts to move in out of Canada for tonight and heading into the day on Saturday. Saturday looks beautiful. Look for a lot of sun or temps in the 50s. Today, most areas will be in the 70s. Parts of New York will stay in the upper 50s.
I'm meteorologist Amy Aronson, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Another really nice warm day ahead of us tomorrow. Bright sunshine with high temperatures in the upper 70s. Going to feel fantastic. But then a cold front comes through, brings us into the chilly low 40s by Saturday morning and the brisk upper 50s Saturday afternoon. Fortunately, this front's not going to send us any rain. It stays bright and sunny on Friday. It will send us a few extra clouds overnight Friday into Saturday morning, but after that, we'll enjoy more sunshine for the weekend. And that's the scene here.
Hi there, I'm meteorologist Michael Ehrenberg with a look at your southeast regional forecast for this Friday. High pressure dominates the area with mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies throughout, maybe a few high clouds streaming across the Gulf Coast states later on in the day. High temperatures, very nice, upper 70s far north in the Nashville area. Look for low to mid 80s for Georgia, down to the Florida Panhandle and to the Carolinas, with mostly mid to upper 80s across central and south Florida, 87 for Tampa and 86 for the West Palm Beach area.
Now let's check to see the weather in cities across the country today. Let's start out in Uvalde, Texas, where they're going to see partly sunny skies, an afternoon temperature at 86. Oscar-winning actor Matthew McConaughey and actress Dale Evans were both born in Uvalde. Next up, we'll head over to Providence, Rhode Island here, where skies are expected to be partly cloudy. Afternoon temperature of 76 degrees. Things are expected to cool down in Rhode Island, capital, tomorrow, where temperatures won't get much above 60 degrees. And then over to Traverse City, Michigan, where things are also a lot cooler there already. Traverse City will only see a high temperature. Are you ready for this? 47 degrees today, and it's going to be mostly cloudy. And then all the way on the other end of things, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, will see abundant sunshine and afternoon temperature just shy of 80 degrees. And temperatures will stay pretty warm even overnight, lower 60s for their overnight temperature. Well, fall is in full effect in many parts of the country, and this weekend some places will have their coldest nights yet of the season. But overall fall temperatures are increasing. In some areas, the temperatures are so high it suggests the seasons could be even shifting. Let's head to Seattle, Washington with meteorologist Kristen Clark to explain.
Seasons are shifting, and there is data to back up this claim. In Seattle, for example, we've had summer warmth linger well into October with 3 consecutive days above 75 degrees, a feat that has never happened before in Seattle history. Of 242 other cities analyzed by Climate Central, 70% recorded their last summer-like day, on average, 3 or more days later since 1970. The largest change was reported in Miami, Florida, with summer warmth extending into the year by an average of 45 days. And when it comes to fall color, warm autumns tend to delay color in most tree species. The October outlook does favor warmer than normal conditions for 2/3 of the country, which could shorten the foliage season this year.
Whether it's golf, football, or any other sport, the weather can and does impact the game. Some ways are obvious, others not so much. Emily Gracie spoke with Myrtle Beach meteorologist Ed Petrowski, starting with the impact of humidity.
A lot of people think when you hear about high humidity, we all feel that humidity and it's kind of weighing down on us. So we assume that humid air is actually heavier than dry air, but it's actually the opposite. And to nerd it up just a little bit, it has everything to do with the molecular weight of water and, of course, nitrogen and oxygen. H2O is a lighter weight than actually nitrogen and oxygen. So bottom line, humid air is actually lighter than dry air, so the ball is going to go farther in a hot and humid atmosphere.
So this applies to football, but also baseball, golf, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. Golf here in the Southeast, they love the golf, and believe it or not, the ball goes a lot farther on a hot, humid day than it does on a cold, dry day.
Do you think players have noticed the phenomenon?
You know what? I have not noticed it in my game at all. That's for sure. Going left or right in my game, and it doesn't matter what the weather is. But yeah, you can see that a lot in the summertime. You'll see players on the golf course. They'll have a longer drive than they typically will. You know, in terms of footballs, they put so much force behind that throw. It's probably negligible, but it's still, the ball will go farther on a hot and humid day.
What other impacts do you think there are from weather on the game?
Well, certainly the wind can have an impact on not only throwing the ball, but also field goals. You know, the overall trajectory of a kicked football is obviously going to change if it's a long distance and you have swirling wind within the stadium. Cold as well, and you know, rain. The ball gets wet. That's one thing. It becomes slippery. But in addition to that, the field can get pretty muddy, so it really hurts the footing for a field goal kicker or a quarterback when they're kicking or passing the ball.
Do you think that as seasons change with climate change and our falls become warmer, that the game is going to change at all? The season may change at all?
We'll see. I think, you know, they're always fighting the fatigue battle, the heat fatigue battle, if you will, especially during the early fall games. And perhaps that'll be prolonged as warm falls last longer and the winters are actually shorter because they're not going to be as cold.
Some parts of the country are headed for a cold snap this weekend, and others have already seen their first frosty wind chills and grass blades, like these photos from Rochester, New York show us. Let's go now to Columbus, Ohio, where meteorologist Marshall McPeak explains how frosty conditions form even when the temperature may not seem like it's right at freezing.
We need temperatures that are 36 degrees or colder. Mainly a clear sky. The more clear, the better, because we radiate away some heat. Little to no breeze. We don't want to mix it up very much in the atmosphere. And a little bit of humidity helps. So you've got something to collect and then freeze on the grass. But 36 degrees, you say? Well, that's because when we measure 36 degrees, it's usually at about 6 feet. So at 36 degrees, 6 feet up, it tends to be pretty close to 32 degrees at the surface. So when you get to that 32-degree mark, you've got a little bit of humidity and it starts to condense on the surfaces. You end up with some patchy frost around the area. And of course, if it gets even colder, you can get down to a killing frost that ends the growing season and is also very helpful for your allergies. So anytime this season you start to see 36 degrees, it means there's a pretty good chance you're likely to see some patchy frost in the area, and we have plenty more of that on the way.
Sure do. Well, have you ever seen a dust devil before? But have you ever really seen one form? Take a look at what this doorbell captured. This was sent to us from a viewer in Pensacola, Florida. You can see the wind start to pick up and seemingly out of nowhere that funnel forms. This happens because there's a pocket of hot air right near the ground. It starts rising quickly through the cold air, forming what's called an updraft. And when conditions are just right, that updraft will start rotating. Well, if you live at a higher elevation, you probably know that baking can be a bit more challenging, and that's partly due to the weather. But learning the science of leavening can help. Let's head over to meteorologist Lindsay Storrs, who's in Salt Lake City, to learn more about how atmospheric pressure impacts baking.
Even if you're very talented at baking, baking at high altitudes can wreak havoc on your baked goods. Many people find their baked goods like cakes tend to sink in the middle when they bake at high altitudes. So why is this? The higher you are in altitude, the lower the air pressure. This means there aren't as many air molecules at higher elevations than there are at sea level. Chef Brian Woolley explains how this affects your baked goods.
At higher altitudes, gases expand faster than at sea level because of the difference in pressures. Thus, when you're doing baked goods in the oven, they may expand a little bit too fast and then end up falling. It has nothing to do with what you're doing baking-wise, it has everything to do with atmospheric pressure.
So how do you prevent this from happening? You need to cut back on your leavening agents, things like baking soda and baking powder, when you're at higher elevations. This will make your baked goods turn out as good in the mountains as they do at the beach.
In October, a lot of people talk about the fall foliage in the Northwest, but at the National Weather Desk, we like to show you the entire country. So let's head over to Montana now for some amazing views from meteorologist Jed Kristoff.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael taking a look at your weather story across the Midwest as we go through the day today. Got a few showers here and there, but a decent amount in the Midwest will be staying dry today, but it is going to be a little cooler. So here's a look at the high temperatures for today. A lot of 50s and some 60s across the South. Moving ahead to your Saturday, a lot more sunshine for all of us, and we slowly start warming up some Saturday. Most of us dry across the Midwest Sunday as well, with a few more clouds.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Warmer temperatures than normal than we've seen the last few days from Oklahoma all the way down into Brownsville. Cooler both east and west. We're keeping our eye on a very weak cold front that's sitting up across Oklahoma. It's going to come south. We'll see a few scattered showers across North Texas, some scattered showers down to around South Texas, but that's pretty much it. No other impact. Temperatures are warm, above the normal for the afternoon. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. We're still looking at some unusual heat deep into our month of October, our autumn season here on the West Coast. Look at that, 84 out of Reno, 92 in Phoenix. Definitely some cooler scattered showers there on the backside of the Rockies, but look at Portland, 85. Could see some records this weekend in the Pacific Northwest. Area of low pressure, though, continuing to throw some needed rain into the Four Corners region. And that's the scene from here.
As you know, there are plenty of big games in college and pro football this weekend. The Red River rivalry is back, while two of NFL's oldest franchises are in London. To tell us how the weather will impact the games, here's Nashville meteorologist Katie Morgan.
Well, it is almost the weekend. You know what time it is. We're talking football. Let's take a look at our college games of the week. Of course, we have the Red River Showdown going on in Dallas. Texas taking on Oklahoma, and the weather can't be better. 82 and sunny for the afternoon. In Los Angeles, we've got Utah taking on UCLA. A little on the warm side in LA with temperatures in the upper 80s. Lots of sunshine in Raleigh, North Carolina. That's where Florida State is in town taking on NC State with plenty of sunshine. We're heading across the pond, if you will, to London, England. In a morning matchup for us here in the U.S., the Packers taking on the Giants, 16 degrees. And yes, no, that's not below freezing. That is Celsius. That would be 62 in Fahrenheit. Bears taking on the Vikings in Minneapolis. Great weather there at 58 and 90 in Phoenix, where the Eagles will be in town taking on the Cardinals. I hope you have a great Friday and a wonderful weekend. I'm meteorologist Katie Morgan.
hope you enjoyed the week's stories and learned a little something on the National Weather Desk. Thanks for joining us. I'm meteorologist Veronica Johnson. Make it an awesome Friday and keep an eye on the sky through the weekend. I'll see you right back here Monday morning.